Okay, hi all together. I would like to welcome you all to this plenary session this morning on energy, environment, and climate change challenges. It's an honor and great pleasure for me to chair this very special session with very prominent, famous participants. Jean-Michel Glachant, the chairman of the board, chief editor of IAEE, then Jim Plummer, one of the founders of IAEE, and Raúl Forero. My name is Gurkan Kumbaroglu. I'm president-elect of IAEE. Prior to this, I have been VP for conferences for the last 4 years, and I would like to note here particularly that we have always encouraged open debate in our conferences and have structured our plenary sessions such that there is open debate on conflicting views. And I think this is one of these sessions where we will be having a lively debate, and I'm looking forward to this. Now, the first speaker in our session today is Jean-Michel Glachant. Jean-Michel has got a PhD in economics from La Sorbonne University. He is currently the director of the Florence School of Regulation, a professor there as well, and the chief editor of our journal, IAEE, Economics of Energy and Environmental Policy, as I mentioned. So, Jean-Michel, the floor is yours.
Pam, pam, pam. Ladies, I was willing to start with a few words in Spanish. Señoras y señores, estoy muy feliz de estar aquí en Medellín.
I would like to speak in Spanish. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be here in Medellín, that's all.
What I would like to do with you is to show you that you do not know what is the European energy policy, and you do not know because myself I do not know, and because nobody knows. It's changing frequently in any direction with no possibility to foresee it. Because what I call European energy policy is the European level of energy policy. It's not Germany, it's not UK, it's not Italy, it's the European level. And the European level does not have strong powers for energy policy, but with powers. So they can come, they can quit. That's it. You know the talk. I have nothing else to say. I will not tell you what I like and I dislike in the European energy policy. I won't tell you what is good and bad. I will only try to explain you what has been done, is done, and could be done. That's it. By the way, when did start the European energy policy? But at least we need Europe to do it. When I was that young in the shop of my father, Europe, political Europe, was not existing. So European energy policy was only a dream, except for coal. We had a constitutional treaty only for coal. The only thing the constitutional treaty was raising was coal. After that, I became a father. I was very young, 21. Then political Europe was existing, but not European energy policy. Energy was excluded from European market treaty. We had a special treaty for coal, a special treaty for nuclear fuel, but in the bulk of the treaty, nothing for energy. Energy was excluded. When did arrive a European energy policy? I was already that old. It's very recent and maybe fading away. So, 4 steps in the short life of EU energy policy. First, From 1986 to 2009, the only European policy with energy was internal market, to get a European internal market with open grids. And we will see first the internal market, second the grids. From 2007 to 2009, EU got a European energy policy with a key pillar, very well known, the renewable pillar, mainly pushed by countries. The renewable pillar was put into the European energy markets by countries and was driven at the country level. In 2013-2014, the same countries, the one having pushed by this, did retreat and did ask for a renewable ceasefire. And you will see two steps of this, a ceasefire proposed by European Commission and a ceasefire proposed by the European power industry. So today we are in this renewable ceasefire. It has been officialized, but as soon as it has been, a new page of energy policy has been opened for 2015-2020. It's quite incredible. It has two steps. One is internal market forever, or internal market business as usual. But second, a renewed European energy policy in a brand new energy union. We have forces, including European Commission, pushing to build a new European energy policy, full-fledged. You will see which one at the end of my talk, if I reach the end, because I cannot control my time. We did start this way. We did start only with internal market, first and foremost internal market. Only this, not because it's logical or astute to have a market to build any energy policy. We did start by the internal market because European Union was strong and legitimate only with internal market. The only raison d'être of European Union, Treaty 1957 and Single Act 1986. Single Act 1986 did push energy into the European market. I will treat power only because you will see it's already very heavy. It took us 10 years to have the first European law. We call it a package. First package, 1996. It did open three things: free entry in power generation, business-to-business consumer eligibility, free movement of goods, power at all internal borders. With this, you cannot build a European market at all. So several years later, second package, 2002, we did add at the European level transparent and market-friendly cross-border operation. We did make mandatory to create energy regulators supporting market building. We have been unable to get a European power market design, so the wholesale pricing and the sequence of market derived to real time did stay a national matter only. But on the top, to make it nice, we did add a full retail eligibility with no European consequences for this. With the third package, we did try to close the gap between the target and the rules, but we have been unable to do it. So instead of putting a European market design and a European grid operation set of rules in the European law, we did the opposite. We did put new bodies, and we did pray for having the new bodies producing the new laws. What they did, which is incredible, by the way. So we did create a European network of transmission system operators to Europeanize the transmission system operation, and we did create the Agency for Cooperation of Energy Regulators to Europeanize the national regulatory authorities. And all of this is working. Now the grids. Why the grids? But it's quite obvious. It's only second to internal market, but it's very logical. You cannot have any power market working if the grids are not market friendly. Because European Union gets power to open the markets, it did also get power to open the grids. But it has been a journey. First package, 1996, third party has right to access the power grids, but how? We have no rules. Including all internal borders, but we have no rules. So how to access borders? Nobody knows, up to you to discover. 6 years later, we have been better. Access to grids has to be regulated in each country. Regulators are to set duties of opening markets and grids. All mechanism for cross-border operation has to be transparent and market-friendly. It touches, of course, congestion mechanism and grid capacity allocation. It was a big step ahead, but even in the third package, we have been unable to harmonize all the national market designs and all the national grid operation rules. And you know, we did use a trick, which is to create bodies and not rules. It did work. The body ENSO-E, ENSO-G did create European grid codes. We now have a space of 500 million consumers with the same grid codes, exactly the same, because there is only one. And also a 10-year network development plan being common, which means that we have a common approach to grid calculation, which is not yet a common planning. And as you know, we have effort to Europeanize the regulatory authorities. However, the third European law didn't try to harmonize the transmission grid tariff making, didn't try to harmonize grid investment and grid data methodology, didn't touch at all to distribution grid issues, and even not to market operation, which means that all wholesale exchanges, PXCs in EU, are free of common rules. And you have to remember that we have no European regulator, we have no European Fed. This I skip. For reasons that I will not develop, finally, we did get a European policy. We got political shocks, one driven by Tony Blair, one driven by Angela Merkel, one driven by the Cold War at this time, Russia, Ukraine. And within 3 years, all these shocks did combine to show renewable as a wonderful importation substitution industrial policy, and also a way to decarbonize. So Angela Merkel has been able to mix the security of supply issue, the independence of Europe vis-à-vis imported gas, and the decarbonization, and it has been adopted by all the member states quite spontaneously. However, all of these did stay outside of the internal market world first, because renewables are subsidy pushed, they are not pulled by market. Energy price is not able to pull investment, and carbon price is not able more to pull these investments. And second, renewables are country regulated. We had no European system of renewable push, except the fact that each country did agree on a certain quota of renewable, which is a volume, but not a formula, not a price. Of course, we got a split. Renewable did become something being only green, being outside of market price and trade order in a special circuit. And apart from this, we got energy flows flowing into the market and the systems. As long as renewable has been small, we got small interactions between renewable market and system. As soon as renewable did become big, we got big interactions between renewable market and the systems. It has been particularly visible in Portugal, in Spain, of course in Germany, and also in Denmark. And it did flow everywhere, because on the continent now we have roughly the same wholesale market price. And so what? Fukushima did freeze the reasoning at the European Union level because Germany did quit nuclear and then everybody were renewable. But the push from shale gas, the push of Russia as unreliable supplier, the total illusion of a green revolution creating green jobs, the illusion of Europe becoming the renewable world leadership, and the reality that in Germany the green charge went up to 65 euro a megawatt hour did reopen the box of reasoning. And in 2013, 2014, we did see the member states calling for a European renewable ceasefire. We will see only part of it, which is the Commission part. In June 2012, European Commission were still unaware of having to push for a renewable ceasefire. It did come only in November 2013, and it has been confirmed from the first time in January 2014. In June 2012, European Commission was still saying, okay, we can have carbon price, but it will not push technology innovation. We can have national renewable target, but it will create European fragmentation and high unit costs. The only thing being good for Europe is a European target and an harmonized frame for renewables. And then we will get cost reduction, cross-border investment, large-scale innovation, blah, blah, and blah, blah. In November 2013, it was already said in the corridor, it's dead. Renewables are going to quit the radar screen. But it was not written. What has been said and written is the creation of new guidelines for renewable support till 2020 for 7 years. It says that only small unit and less mature renewable, as offshore or biomass, can keep the feed-in tariff. The big units and the deployed renewable, as onshore wind, can only get feed-in premium through technology-neutral auction. And the end of the end has been made public in January 2014, because Commission did say that now on, Europe will have only one binding target, greenhouse gas cap, and all the rest will disappear. This I skip because I have no time. Then where are we tomorrow? Well, it will work, I guess. Where are we tomorrow? But we should come back to internal market business as usual because renewable obligation has disappeared from the future. Seems to be true. European Commission did publish a very important communication 3 weeks ago. It is called Toward an Energy Union, but do not remember even the word because the word is not saying anything, it's only a catchy word. Your Energy Union is not a new institution, it's even not a European body, it's nothing, it's a word. So this word, Energy Union, it's totally compatible with a mini program for Europe, which is to boost the internal market. It's strongly pushed by the European electricity industry and the European gas industry. And they say, okay, with the existing institution, business as usual, let's call it Energy Union, we will go to end the internal market, to finish it, because we will push in the internal market all the renewables and capacity mechanisms being fully market-based. However, even in this reduced European energy scene, we do not know what we will get in the future. Why? Because member states have strong powers to take initiatives. Germany can still push the way it wants offshore wind and energy efficiency. UK can push its way its own vision of security of supply, being capacity mechanism and long-term contract with UK nuclear or even with UK tidal energy. France can do its own capacity mechanism and also go for offshore its way, but it can also merge EDF and Aveda or link both of them, either to push the nuclear EPR or to create a new small nuclear reactor. But how can European Commission follow all of these novelties coming from member states? This I will skip also, and I will go there. Commission 3 weeks ago did issue a 20 pages paper saying, oh, what are we going to do in Europe in the 5 coming years? Of course, we can achieve the internal market, long list of items that I did skip, but it's not enough. We have to do more than the market. What more? Security of supply. And what do you intend to do with security of supply? But a lot of things. European Commission proposed to totally review the European security of supply gas regulation starting this year. They also proposed, but I did skip it, to add power security of supply new regulation in 2017. They also proposed to have a new legislative act giving to European Commission the right to review all international agreement ex ante before signature between one European country and one external country. Let's say Germany, Azerbaijan. If they want to sign anything, they have to go to European Commission to get the green light. It's an enormous change. They also propose to coordinate Commission, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, HRVP of Commission, and the Member States to create a new international diplomacy for energy and climate initiatives, to push for new energy international treaties as within the treaty with the US or within WTO, or to launch new initiatives with India, China, etc. Other things that I cannot develop by lack of time. And then, it's not all at all. European Commission is reopening the box of the more traditional energy policy since the last years, since Berlin 2007. European Commission proposed to review the European legislation for energy efficiency and to make a new proposal to meet a certain energy efficiency target in 2030. It proposed to review the renewable package by 2016 and to add in it renewable support to biomass biofuel. It proposed a new legislation to explain how we will get our greenhouse gas cap in the ETS sectors and non-ETS sector. It also proposed a full enormous package for transportation with efficient pricing of infrastructure, rollout of intelligent transportation, and all means of enhancing energy efficiency. So, what's the conclusion of all of this? We did know what was the European energy policy from 2007 till 2015. We do not know what it will become from 2015 to 2020. Many things are possible, including nothing. Why? Because all the European member states have veto rights vis-à-vis any law proposed by European Commission. So we do not know if any of these 15 laws will be voted or not. That's life, that's it. I do not know what Europe will do. And if you know, in my mind, you should make a small mistake somewhere. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jean-Michel. We will be having a Q&A session at the end of this session, but if there are questions of immediate understanding for this presentation in particular, I would like to allocate a few minutes for this. Okay, no questions for Jean-Michel. So our next speaker is Jim Plummer. Jim has got a PhD degree in economics from Cornell University. He is currently the president of the Climate Economics Foundation. He is one of the founders of IAEE. I've got a long record of employment here in his biography, but one thing, he has been in Colombia back in 1972 for USAID. He has served as at the executive of the president, Harold Ford, and he's got a long record of publications. So, Jim, we're happy to have you here as a speaker. Please, the floor is yours.
I need to find the...
oh, sure.
Where is it on here?
That's me, yes. It's here. I think it's this one.
Okay.
Let's go like this.
All right. Good morning. I'm delighted to be back in Colombia, where I lived from 1970 to 1972. I worked at the U.S. Embassy for the U.S. Agency for International Development. I worked very closely with the people at Planiación, where my fellow speaker now works. Some of the people I worked with then were junior Colombians. You may remember some of them. Miguel Urrutia later became head of the Banco de Colombia for about 15 years. Guillermo Perry became Minister of Finance. Enrique Lo had a distinguished career as head of taxes, and then was assassinated in the 90s. And finally, Lachlan Curry, a guy originally Canadian, then US, then Colombian, had a colorful history in the United States and a colorful history here. But he and I basically started the Colombian savings and loan system. Just before his death a few years ago, a number of presidents, both conservatives and liberals who had worked with him over the years, came to the current president, Santos, and together they nominated him for the Order de Boyacá, the highest award in the country. Okay, what I'm doing today is a preview of a book called Rethinking the Economics of Global Warming and Renewable Energy. As you can see, we have an international cast of authors. To that, we're currently in the process of adding one more Californian, one more Brit, and 2 Germans. So the list is getting quite long. I'm going to make this very short today. It's about a 30-slide presentation. I'm jumping from slide 1 to slide 23. And it's not moving. Oh, here we go. Okay. This is a graphic that thank you. This is a graphic that I call the increasing divergence graphic. The horizontal axis is the dollars per ton required to avoid a ton of carbon dioxide. The vertical axis is time. The famous $36 per ton that came out of the U.S. Office of Management Budget and EPA is a high-biased and obsolete measure. But what's happened in the last 8 years is we've had the temperature pause. And so the temperature to ambient carbon dioxide measure, known as sensitivity, has gone down. And as that goes down, the measure of the social cost of carbon creeps over closer to the vertical axis. On the right-hand side is much more important because there's much more movement on that side, and those red blocks represent the increasing cost per ton of carbon dioxide avoided as you move from lower penetration of renewables to higher penetration of renewables. So we looked at 3 case studies: California, the UK, and Germany. In California, the program was launched about 2005. The California Air Resources Board commissioned a study to try to figure out what the rough costs of the plan would be. The 2 main authors of that study were Professors Jim Sweeney and John Wyant at Stanford University. They concluded that to complete the first phase, that would be only getting up to about a 20 to 25% renewables penetration, the cost per ton of carbon dioxide avoided would be in the range of $90 to $133. They then estimated that to get to the 2020 goal of 33% renewables, the dollars per ton of carbon dioxide avoided would move up into the range of $340 to $637 per ton. So looking at all 3 of the case studies, I'd have to say that California is the most extreme in terms of the very high costs that are likely to be incurred if the plan indeed is implemented. And Governor Brown was just reelected for the last 4 years, so it will proceed at least for that time. How about the UK? There are some studies underway in the UK which we're following closely, but haven't yet come up with a conclusion. But there's one by Professor Gordon Hughes at University of Edinburgh, and it's a study of specifically wind energy. And the title of the study is, "Why is Wind So Expensive?" And he was the first that went into the costs that are incurred in a grid when you have an intermittent source that's very unpredictable, and how you have to back that up with gas turbines, and how they kind of interfere and fight with one another within the grid system and drive up costs. So he came to the conclusion that for each ton of carbon dioxide avoided in the UK, the range of cost was between $300 and $421. Then on in Germany, there is a new report out from the government from an expert commission with 4 professors, including a past president of this association, Georg Erdmann. And using that data, one can come up with a cost per ton avoided of $442. Well, if you look at this diagram, you see how as you move out the horizontal axis, as you get higher and higher renewables penetration, you get higher and higher costs. The interesting part is that the horizontal distance between these blocks represents the economic waste per ton of carbon dioxide avoided. So it becomes, as you increase the penetration of renewables, it becomes more and more economically wasteful. So it's an exercise in what you might call economic self-flagellation. The question is often phrased in US governmental terms or European, can it be done? Well, of course it can be done. If you consider it a necessary push, and you push hard enough, and you're willing to waste enough money, it can be done. But why? The temperature sensitivities have not gone up. They've gone down. So the social cost of carbon has gone down, which means that global warming is a problem, but it's probably not as big a problem as we previously thought it was. So shouldn't we consider other solutions which are less expensive, less economically wasteful? Well, if we do that, we get something like this, and we cut off the right side with the renewables. That's not to say that you forget about renewables entirely. You keep research and development, you keep looking for that magic type of renewable that will be lower cost. But you basically concede that because global warming is less of a problem, things like increased energy efficiency, fossil fuel switching, cook stove, wood cook stove replacement in less developed countries, perhaps new forms of nuclear power, that all these things should be pursued because there are reasons to believe that they do have some overlap with the social cost of carbon. Now, those are not the thrust of our book. We will have some reference points to say that's a plausible position. We won't try to prove it. We're more saying, as negativists, we do know that renewable energy has not proven to be a very economically efficient solution. Okay. So this tries to answer the question, well, what else? Particularly for people who say, well, global warming is a potential disaster that we all have to face for the survival of the human race. If you get all excited that way, then you have to say, what else? But if you say global warming is a problem that should be recognized, it exists, the economic damage from it is rather limited, then you come up with a different viewpoint. None of our authors believes that more carbon dioxide doesn't act in the direction of more global warming. None of our authors believes that social cost of carbon is negative. None of our authors thinks that there should be no renewable research and development. So this is not an extreme position. This is simply an economic calculus. Last subject, very briefly, less developed countries. If you listen to the rhetoric at the international level, the rhetoric leading up to the Paris conference this coming December, you'd think, well, Europe is already aboard. Europe is willing to do what it takes to solve this horrendous problem of global warming. The Chinese seem somewhat amenable. They did this sort of deal with Obama. Now we need the other countries to step up and tell us what is their contribution going to be. Well, since I'm addressing an audience from a less developed country, I think your response should be, no thanks. It's too expensive. It doesn't do anything for us. If the Europeans are foolish enough to want to lose $400, $500, $600 of waste for every ton of carbon dioxide avoided, they're free to do that themselves, but don't lecture us who have fewer resources, have other uses, other pollution uses to direct those resources. Don't lecture us that carbon dioxide reduction should be a high priority goal for less developed countries. There are just too many other urgent uses of economic resources. So there will be a chapter in our book toward the end, maybe one of you will write it. What about less developed countries? We will, fortunately, we're probably a year away from having a complete manuscript, not a final manuscript, but so we will see the drama play out in Paris. We will see speeches from less developed countries. I wish that debate would take more concrete form, such as you see in these economic graphs, rather than terminology like a push or sustainable. What a vague word, sustainable. It has so many different meanings for different people. I think when in less developed countries where 4.3 million people die every year in less developed countries from black carbon pollution from wood stoves. That's a big problem. In urban areas of Latin America and elsewhere, urban air pollution is horrible. That's a real problem. That's a real health problem. So why divert one's attention away from those very serious real problems to carbon dioxide reduction, which is a minor problem and one where the Europeans in particular seem willing to waste a lot of their own money? Let them do it, but don't follow online. Don't be pressured into doing it yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are any immediate questions, Feridun, yes, please.
Hello, does it work? Okay. Perry Sioshansi, thank you very much. Two quick questions or comments you maybe can clarify. One is you seem to focus entirely, from what I could gather, on renewables, the cost of renewables to remove a ton of carbon. In my view, everywhere I go, there are many other reasons for pursuing renewables. It's not all about carbon. Second question, you mentioned that renewables are expensive relative to conventional technologies. I think that was true a few years ago. I don't think it's true now or in the future. There was a competitive bid in Abu Dhabi late last year, and the lowest bid was a solar plant, under 6 cents a kilowatt hour, 25-year power purchase agreement. And there were all kinds of bids for fossil fuel. And this is a country that has a lot of fossil fuels. Of course, has a lot of solar as well. So renewables, in my view, are not, maybe they were expensive at one time, but perhaps because of the subsidies, they're no longer expensive. I don't think. So if you can clarify those two, I really appreciate it.
Should I try to answer? Well, we've looked at the costs in California, the UK, and Germany, and the costs for removing a ton of carbon dioxide are that high. And decarbonization is the primary rationale that's been used for promoting renewables. When you say that there are other reasons, what reasons do you have in mind?
We don't want to make this a dialogue. We have a discussion round at the end, but there are other questions as well. David Newberry, please.
Okay, Barry.
David Newberry, I
Another
just have a
question?
factual question.
Oh.
Both the social costs of carbon and the cost of renewables critically depend upon the discount rate. What discount rate were you using?
The discount rate is most important in calculating the social cost of carbon. The $36 per ton was a measure that the U.S. Office of Management and Budget came up with along with EPA. They did it in a way that highballed that $36 per ton number for three reasons. One, they used discount rates that were lower than the OMB guidelines that they require everybody else to use. Number two, they took an arithmetic average of three models, two of which I think are reasonable, the DICE model from Professor William Nordhaus and the FUN model from Professor Richard Toll. Then they added in a third model, PAGE, from Christopher Hope, who doesn't provide the documentation for his model, and his model produces results that are 4 or 5 times higher. By putting in that ringer of the PAGE model, they got up to $36 per ton. The third way in which it was fudged, if you will, is it used obsolete, old temperature to carbon dioxide sensitivity numbers that were about 10 years out of date. So yes, the discount rate is very important. It's much more important on that side than on the cost per ton avoided, although I grant you it's important there too.
So what is it?
Each study in California, the UK, and Germany has its own conventions for using the discount rate, so I can't tell you one number. Most of them try to provide a sensitivity analysis on that variable.
Yes, please, another question over there.
Yeah, I'm Sergio Botero from National University of Colombia. I wonder if that social cost of carbon is based on the sensitivity between temperature and carbon dioxide concentration. But temperature is a very volatile value. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, because the global climate is very complex.
What is a very volatile value?
The temperature going up and down, because there are several phenomena related to that. So how can you conclude to make such a projection that actually that ratio between, or that relation between temperature and carbon dioxide concentration is really going away? Perhaps there is going back, there is a mean reversion phenomena or something like that. And second, actually I am a co-author of a presentation that we have tomorrow about carbon emissions, the trend, and we have seen that the CRs and the EUAs, which are the emission units, the cost, went down dramatically from the last years. So actually, carbon market now is very depressed. We have emissions near to zero value, the CERs for the clean development mechanism. So perhaps that you are showing that is that they need a new design for the market, but the real market is showing that. So there were two questions. I'm sorry if they were too long.
You're right. These things are variable over time. There's one fellow in Canada, Ross McKittrick, who was kind of the economics statistician historian on these things. So what he does is to take the temperature each year, going back to 1998 when it sort of hit a plateau, and then he'll go back 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and he'll say, is the current period statistically significantly different from either a particular period or a longer period or a longer period? And he does that with both the temperature and he does that with the ambient concentration of carbon dioxide. The ambient concentration of carbon dioxide has continued to go up during the last 8-9 years, while temperatures have basically remained flat. No statistically significant increases. So, but who knows? As a statistician, he says, well, the longer this goes on, the greater the probability that it will continue on. That's the common approach that a statistician takes. But none of us know. It just makes another contribution to the literature. But Ross McKittrick, he's at the University of Guelph. He's unfortunately not a member of this society. I keep on him about that. But a significant figure in this whole history of the economics of global warming.
Thank you very much, Jim. We will be continuing now with the third speaker for today, who will present the vision of energy policy of the government of Colombia. And our third speaker is Raúl Forero. He is economist at the National University of Colombia. And he's got a master in economics, telecommunication, regulation, public services, University of Barcelona. He's an advisor to the National Planning Department and lecturer at the National University of Colombia. Yes, please, the floor is yours.
Buenos días, les agradezco.
Good morning. I thank the organizers for the invitation to the national government, especially the National Planning Department, for conducting this presentation in this seminar. Specifically, I would like to tell you that we're going to conduct a very simple presentation. The idea is to present a diagnosis, a very quick diagnosis, as to what has brought us to work in the topics proposals that we are presenting for the 2014-2018 National Development Plan, which is currently being debated in our national government. We expect to have the route map in 2 or 3 months, so I am here to tell you a few things as to what the Colombian government is thinking for this plan, and specifically about the topics that we're looking at in terms of the environment and all the things that we have in the energy sector. If we look at the sector, the electrical sector, we see that we are complying with something that we want in the public sector. We have coverage of almost 100%. We are about to enter the last milestone, 500,000 inhabitants that still do not have this service. In comparison to other Latin American countries, we have tremendous coverage, but we still have challenges. The topic of quality quality, energy efficiency. Those are the challenges that the Colombian government has been working for, with the establishment of different laws for public utilities. In terms of dynamics and efficiency of the energy sector, we see that the four facets: generation, transmission, distribution, and commercialization, we have tried to cover. We have tried to provide an expansion of the service, trying to bring more agents. If we look at the blue bar, generators, we had 18, and now we have 42. We had 18 in 95, now we have 42 in the year 2013. In terms of commercializers, it's the same thing. It went from 35 to 68. Distributors has been relatively stable, and transmitters has also been very stable because this is a natural monopoly. When we look at the different scenarios and consider what the sector is thinking, there is a topic that deals with growth expansion. During the past 5 years, we went to a coverage of almost 97.7%. We have an objective that is not as big as we expected. About a year ago, when we began to speak about the goals of the National Development Plan, we ambitiously wanted to have coverage, 100% coverage in 4 years. Our country's economic reality is quite complicated. Oil prices have dropped. We depend on oil prices, but our expectation is that in the next 4 years, we're going to reach approximately 98.5 with public investment, and we also hope to have investments for network operators. We want to again include an additional 250,000 users that do not currently have energy. And finally, we also want to have all the heads of our municipalities to have energy with the best indexes for service rendering. A topic that is very important and that is being tackled by the Colombian government is the topic of competitivity. We do know that a large part of the component depend on the cost of energy. And if we look at the prices comparatively, we have fees that because of certain components, especially because of the topic of reliability, we are paying for that. And this is a fee that is not really competitive. If we were going to consider cost country dynamics, we pay higher fees than what other people pay in Peru, Brazil, Ecuador. Studies like Eximil prepare for the PTP of Andy reflected that there are things, although this is the most dynamic segment, we still have many challenges to overcome. What challenges have we found? And again, planning has also tackled this, and the World Bank has tackled this. Last year, we conducted an infrastructure mission for different sectors of our economy: public utilities, mining, telecommunications. In terms of energy, we work with the Universidad Nacional, Faculty of Mines, and Professor Isaac Diener helped us with the study for the energy sector. What we discovered is that there are certain things where the dynamics of politics need to be focused on a specific point, specific fronts. During the next few years, Colombia may run into new environments, perhaps a post-conflict if we are able to reach a peace agreement. And this obviously is going to change demand and markets in Colombia. Colombia is also trying to enter the OCDE group. There we have a strong component in terms of the environment. There, the energy sector also has to be prepared in different fronts. We also do know that our country has a deficiency in terms of infrastructure because of different points, regulatory, economic, and so on. We have a very strong regulation, but sometimes it seems as if the regulator, we're looking at this topic of regulation again. We have something specific. Again, it's a very strong regulation, but it's overexposed, and we also have structural problems in the sector. We are not advancing our regulation. Sometimes our regulation is falling behind future, thinking about an organized market that structures conditions of the market, and thinking about a real market where demand from the energy sector is actually stronger and is considered and enables response from users to different conditions. These are challenges that we're tackling. People that work in the electric sector do know that this is not a short challenge. We have been working on this for many years. Proposals such as more standardized derivatives and balances between what the government wants and what is proposed. We're trying to shorten the path, a path that has been lost during certain times, and we're trying to focus on certain things that our country is confronting. Our country gives subsidies for this service rendering. We're trying to remove those subsidies, continue helping those classes